welcome back, everybody. Here we are, episode 4 of the Coffee and Catch Up podcast. And once again, we are excited today to have a very, very special guest. Derek, why don't you tell us who we got on here today?
I'm blown away that she has agreed to come and sit with the three of us in this $1 million studio that we have. A lot of folks will know her just because they obviously can see her, and her social media explodes anytime that she posts anything on there. But this young lady we have sitting with the three of us, she wears many hats, I will say. She owns Sundown Cattle Company, and she's going to go into detail about that. She does barrel racing.
Which is not rolling barrels down a hill,
Which
I
we
have learned.
You got cleared up with that.
Nope, figured that out.
Thank you, Brian, for clearing the air on that.
Glad to help.
She is the sales manager at State Broadcasting. She co-hosts a morning show
The Morning Ride
with Darcy. And they do that weekday mornings. Y'all do that from
6 to 10.
6 in the morning?
Well, Darcy does the 6 o'clock hour, and then I come in at 7.
She confessed.
God bless you, Darcy. God bless you. Goodness gracious. 6. I ain't doing it.
So she is involved in lots of things, has brought various things to the area locally, and we're going to delve into all kinds of stuff. And thank you so much for agreeing to come sit in with us. I know you and I obviously have known each other for years, and it's been a pleasure all those years. I will say that. We've helped each other through different things as we've navigated, I'll say life is the best way to say it. So thank you for coming on, and we look forward to today's show in episode 4.
Well, thank y'all for inviting me to this $1 million studio.
Hey, we do our best.
It's the decor. It's especially the picture.
Yeah.
You got to love it.
And we've added decor, as you can see over.
That's your left shoulder, Brian.
On my left
Looking
shoulder.
in the camera, it's hard to tell.
I was about to do the thing that I was teaching you earlier.
Yep, left, right.
Left.
I love how you guided him through that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's his first time viewing, apparently.
It takes a village.
And we're glad of it.
Yeah. So I probably know you the least. Stephanie, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of kick this thing off? Where are you from? Who is Stephanie?
Oh, gosh. And how long do we have?
As long as it takes.
So, born Stephanie Roxanne Horn. Did not.
Roxanne.
Yeah.
That'll be the only one, I promise. That'll be the only one.
Yeah.
I want to
bet.
be your man. Roxanne.
Which, funny thing is, I didn't know what that song meant till I got older, and I was like, what was my mom and daddy thinking?
The song came out later, I'm sure.
No,
I was born in 1983.
That's right.
Derek, watch your mouth.
I have to remember that everybody's not.
We're only 11 years
80.
apart.
Oh,
You remember when Sting was born. We
That
don't.
one stung.
That one stung.
and I was at a UTFO concert back whenever they sang Roxanne. No, I really wasn't, but I could have been.
But yeah, so born and raised here in Dublin, Georgia. Went to Trinity for a few years. Got transferred out to public school. Graduated from West Lawrence. Did a little bit of college. And my mom passed away in 2003, so I withdrew and had to grow up real quick at the age of 19.
19, that's a tough age, too, to have to kind of be introduced out into the world. So how did that go for you?
Well, that was probably when life hit fast forward really quick. My mom died August 26th of 2003. My stepdaddy, who had helped raise me since she picked me up when I was like 10, he remarried in December of that year. So I found out what homeless was and found out what it was like to be without a car. I had a little 4-door, I think it was like a little red Grand Am, the little Sport Edition.
Oh, yeah.
I had went to get my tires rotated and balanced and my oil changed at a car dealership here in Dublin. And whenever I went to go get my car, I didn't have one. It had got traded in. So I didn't know that, that was not my car. it was in, my mom's name, and she didn't have a will, so everything was kind of dispersed.
So, but you didn't know. They're just
I
like,
was
come
19.
get your stuff changed.
And they're like,
then,
yeah,
oh, by the way, the owner actually traded us in.
Yeah. So there I was, without a home, without a car.
At what age?
I was 19.
19. You have
19.
a car. Psych.
Yep.
God, that's tough.
So, yeah, that's whenever life hit. And I realized then that, I had to learn how to survive.
Right.
And, when people say that you learn how to survive, you go in survivor mode,
Yeah.
it's something you never really get out of. Because
Gotcha,
you
gotcha.
have to, I had to figure out, like, how to pay my bills, I had to find somewhere to live. I did some things in my early 20s that, now that I look back on, I hated the things that I've done, but I felt like at the time I had no other choice.
Right.
A lot of people know, some people don't, but I dated an older married man for a long time, and people judged me for it, and I didn't really have any other options. Pretty much all my grandparents died before I was born. My mom, Beverly, and my dad, they only had one child together. That's me. So no full blood brothers or sisters, to go live with. And so I went and worked at the radio station.
What year was this, Stephanie?
So I worked at the radio station pretty much from 99 to 03. But for those of you who know me, I'm a huge Gator fan. But Mac Davis, can we say Mac's name?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
so
yes, yes.
Mac hired me because I went in to sell ads for the football program when I was in high school.
Okay.
And he called me and he was like, "Hey, you got a career in radio," and I was like, "Really?" I was thinking,
shout out to Mac for having that eye. You know what I mean?
That's true.
and Mark Powers.
Wow.
And
Yes,
so I was like, "So I'm going to be on the radio?" He's like, "No, 107.5 The Buzz. You ever heard of it?" And I was like, I've never heard of that station, but it was 107.5 The Buzz,
Yep,
the rock
yep.
station. He said we do Georgia Bulldogs, and we have to sell 10 sponsors a year to help pay for the broadcast. And he was like, "Do you think you could help us, part time?" And that was my introduction. Well,
Wow.
then Mark Powers got me. He's like, "Come help me do some liners." And I was like, "What are those?" And he said, we'll get in here and I'll tell you what to say and you can do them. And he said, "I want you to intro my drive at 5." And I was like, "Well, what do you want me to say?" I was like, "Okay, so we'll just say whatever, and I was in there playing around. And I said, "It's the drive at 5. Say it like you mean it." And that was his intro to the drive at 5. But that was how my love for radio began.
That's crazy. And see, I was working there, I'm sure, during part of the time that you were there, but I left for a period of time. And we probably just, because the way I worked there part-time, I don't know that we ever interacted. Do you recall? I don't.
No, I mean, you obviously back then, good
Yeah.
looking, still very good looking, great voice.
He takes it after his little brother.
Yeah, that's what it is.
how
But
it works.
you made a mark
Yeah.
because what you were doing on radio, who you were, and that kind of stuff. So when you're in your earlier years and you walk by that Y96 studio and back in its glory days, you guys and still are superstars in my book.
That's funny. Because it's the other way around for me. I do the thing on Saturday night, and then you and Darcy are every morning, and every other commercial you hear is you, and I'm just like, God, she's so great. I love
But
it.
you have the most listened to show.
Because of the show, that's got a lot to do with
But
it.
if you
that
weren't-
drives it.
But if you weren't there, the show wouldn't happen.
I don't
Because
know
ain't
about
none of us during the week ready to come on Saturday night, 7 to midnight.
God, Chris, you're cool too, Chris. Oh man, y'all chill. It's not about me today.
Yeah, so, but to bring it back around, to talk about my mom, hence, if you can see the tattoo, the brand, the Sundown brand, my mom's CB handle was Sundown. She, I had a hard time growing up really understanding some things about her and why she left me because when my mom and my dad divorced at a very young age, I was placed into a home with a family here in Dublin. Well, they provided a great roof over my head. There were things that happened to me that he was eventually charged and served time. And so from about, I'd probably say about 4 to 10, I was in their home, I know for at least 4 years full time. There's still missing pieces that I don't have, but I can, kind of look at pictures and place things together. And God rest her soul, she's not here for me to ask. But I was in their care, but that's how I learned how to barrel race. I had ponies that were mean as you could ever imagine. I had one that, when you get her to the alleyway, she'd try to flip over backwards. So like 4 or 5 grown men would have to pick her up, set her in the alleyway. They'd set me on top of her, and if you touched her, she'd flip over backwards. And then once I got on her, she'd like get up on her back feet and like climb down the panels and then take off.
And let me stop you right there. This pony's doing that, and you're still willing to get on it.
Oh yeah, it's an adrenaline rush.
Wow.
And then the other one that I had, she wouldn't stop till she got to the horse trailer. So she would, after she'd finished the pattern, she'd come out and run to the horse trailer. And then I had a big horse that she didn't want to do Western pleasure anymore. But those horses are what got me through my younger years. Wow. That's where I learned how to, Barbara Bateman, that's where I learned how to ride horses at the age of 3. I took riding lessons with her. Wow. Competed in my first show when I was 4 at the arena in Macon over there by the river, where they have like the cherry. No, well, I've competed there too at a young age, but prior to that, there's like a little arena close to where they have the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Come on, Macon, man.
This is your time to shine,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Arena.
Like you go over the river
Macon.
bridge and you turn left and you go down that road and it's down there on the
Like
left.
in Central Park down there?
Yes.
Where it's right there where the Macon Braves play.
There you go.
Okay, yeah.
Macon's
yeah.
Macon.
Yep.
I'll be here all day.
And Luther
Yep.
Williams Field.
That's it.
It's kind of close to that, but yeah. So that's how I learned how to ride horses. I started riding when I was 3. When I was younger than that, they would ride me around, help me go to sleep.
I can't.
That is
Have you ever ridden a horse?
No.
Are you scared of them?
Yes, I am not.
Still horse. That
I'm
Harley
7'2",
rode
as
on.
we've discussed before. Well, that's the thing. People, like my wife tells me all the time, like, how can you be scared of horses? You ride a crotch rocket. You know what I mean? The crotch rocket doesn't have a brain, and like
You
an
control it.
animal bigger than me scares me.
Neither does
horses are
neither does the
massive.
person navigating that crotch rocket doesn't have a brain.
Right. Well, exactly. And it just kind of goes by itself, and I'm just along for the ride.
But when you are riding, what do you feel?
Adrenaline. It's definitely an adrenaline rush. As soon as you said something about when Brian alluded to how dangerous it was and you would get on there anyway, there's definitely an adrenaline chase.
'Cause
No
I'm a
question.
I've got to guess. Freedom?
It is. For, depending on a lot of times people will say, well, what's your fastest time? Well, it depends on the arena. Mm-hmm. Some arenas are smaller, and it's like a 13 to 14 second pattern. Some arenas are bigger, and it might be a 14, 15, 16 second pattern, and then you have the WPRA, the Women's Pro Rodeo Association pattern, and that one can be 17 to 18. It just really depends on the distance between the timer, the first barrel, and how far it is coming back out. So those are all the factors. But when you saddle that horse, and these horses don't owe us anything.
Right.
They weren't put here to run around trash cans.
Right.
And they give you everything that they have, and you come back out. It for those 14 or 15 seconds, it is literally freedom. You can take. It feels like you leave the world for just a little bit, and all it is you and your horse, that adrenaline, the speed, the muscle memory, the excitement, and then it's one of the most humbling sports because, from 2004 to probably about 2018, I have this horse named Miss Cody, and Miss Cody, kind of like me, rough around the edges, had been, abused when she was younger. They no-sold her at this cutting horse sale in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Wow. Papa Herb Mullis, God rest his soul. He was like a daddy to me. He trained her, brought her, from Oklahoma back to Dublin, Georgia, over there on Horseshoe Circle. And within 60 days, he called me and said, "Hey, Steph, now keep in mind, I want you to hold on to dates, okay?" He said, "I want you to come try this horse." He said, I think she's going to be something you like." And I said, "Well, okay, Papa Herb." I said, "I'll come try her." So I got on her, and I was like, man, this is like, she's automatic. Like, you just get up on there, and you just send her to the barrel, and she rates herself. And what I mean by rate is whenever they, like, drop in on their hind end, and they drag their hind end, and then they pick up their right shoulder, and then, they reach around the barrel and then leave. I mean, it's a lot of athleticism because, again, they're not born to run around trash cans.
Right.
You have to teach them how to use their body, how to pick up correct leads, where to place their feet, where to put your hands, how to cue them with your legs. Just like, when you're sitting on your motorcycle and you lean,
Right.
that motorcycle goes with you. I mean, it's like she's your dance partner. And when she and Miss Cody and I seen each other, it was like an instant chemistry. Now, prior to that, I'd had some horses that I could go and place with. Not horses that when I went down the alleyway, I knew that I quite possibly could win that day. And so Papa Herb said, "Come try her." And there's this circuit. I don't know really how to explain it, but it's where your horse has to be 5 years or younger, and they're called futurities. But you can't run these horses prior to December 1. So it's like run what you brung kind of thing. You don't know anybody else's horses. None of them has money earnings. But as of December 1, you could start compete and run. And he said, "Steph," he said, "I think we could make a futurity run with this mare, like campaigner, this next year." This is 2003. I lost my mama August 26, 2003. God sent Miss Cody.
Sure did.
God, that's cool. That's a
Sure
So,
did.
after Mama died, I was prescribed Paxil. Paxil, probably one of the worst things for me to be prescribed because I've never been diagnosed, but I feel like I have bipolar tendencies. I know it runs in my family. So Paxil amplified my depression of losing my mom. And I had, homeless, lost my car, horse comes along. I had all of these things, and Miss Cody was my saving grace.
Wow.
She gave me a reason. We competed in our very first futurity December of that year in Unadilla. A lady up in Milledgeville, she looked at me and she said, "You're running with the big dogs now." And I was like, I think I got it. So we run. The first go, I win it by 2/10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in barrel racing, it is. The second go, I think we were like third or fourth, and then we come back in, we won the average. We leave there, we go to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, win the first go, win the second go, win the average. We leave there to the next futurity, first go, second go, win the average. Like, I did not.
unstoppable.
Wow.
It was insane. So I left to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, made that stop. The next stop was San Antonio for the stock show and rodeo and futurity. We go down the alleyway, and like, she's trying, but I could tell something wasn't right. Like that fire in her had gone. I was like, well, maybe, it's a long trip. We just left Tennessee. We're now, in Texas. And I was like, I don't know. So second go, like, she can barely go. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like everything that's going on, why? Yeah. So she was lame, and, lame meaning she was hurting. Like her feet were hurting. We gave her meds. We got her from San Antonio up to Marshall, Texas. I laid over at Martha Josie's places for a little while, and the vet come in and looked at her, and he was like, "You're going to have to give her some time off, and we've got to change her angles in her feet because there's a term it's called no hoof, no horse." And what that means is if their feet don't feel good and they're not shod the correct way for their bones, they're not going to be able to perform at the level that you need them to perform because, it's kind of like if you had a bone spur or something like that, they're hurting. So I had to give her some time off, bring her back. She goes, it was like 6 months later, we go back to winning in place, and we end up at Oklahoma City. And even through all of this, she finished up top 8. She was 8th in the world the year in 2004.
Oh, wow.
So, it's all based off of money earnings. Well, then after that, I was like, I'm living in Louisiana at the time. I've got moved out there to Natchitoches, Louisiana. Had left the feed store, and just various things happened. It's not like this is just the storyline. Because I'm pretty sure people may tune in and be like, Steph, there was other things that happened. Absolutely, we don't have time for everything that happened, but it was such an experience because I learned that, people are going to God's going to put people in your life, but he's also going to place animals and these other wonderful creatures in our life to help us heal. And I had posted earlier this week, God, created doctors to heal bodies, but he created horses to heal souls. And that was...
Ooh, that's good.
But that's what these horses have been for me over the years. So... Miss Cody, I still got her. She's 25 now.
Really?
Yeah, and so...
Dang.
2018, I made a run on her at GSA, and before I went down the alleyway, when I was back there, her thing, people called her Catwalk Cody, because when it was her time, I mean, like, she just,
Like
1100...
she knew it?
Oh, my gosh, she knew her name. And she was like, she loved it just as much as I did. When you were, I'd stand like probably 150 feet away from the alleyway. She heard her name. She'd go to prancing. The closer she'd get on her back feet. She'd walk on her back feet. And then, like, when you made that turn to go down the alleyway, she would launch. Like, just, let's go, mama.
Like y'all were just connected.
Yeah, it's because anybody that rides, they'll tell you there's some horses you just don't G-haul with. But y'all don't connect. Like, you just don't have that chemistry with that horse. And so, but that day, I knew I'd made my last run because she didn't have that fire in her. And I said, you know what, baby girl? You don't owe me nothing. I'm going to retire you. Wow. I was like, but if you would, I'd just like to have one baby. One thing to carry on, what you're doing. Now, y'all may laugh at me, but when we started trying to get her bred, she wouldn't take. And I was like, a year would go by. She, artificial insemination, we could get the follicle, but she wouldn't hold. Like her cert, like everything would fill up with fluid. And so I was like, I'm going to call the animal communicator, pet psychic. Get her on the phone, and Miss Kathleen says, Stephanie, she's sad. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with her? Like, it's just, I won't even make her carry the baby. Like, I'll get her a surrogate. Just tell her, like, if she's worried about that. And she said, no, she's scared that she's never going to be able to run again. Like, she thinks you're done with her. Oh. Yeah. So I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And she said, well, you've got to go talk to her. And I said, well, what does she want me to say? She said, just tell her that, she's not done. So I go out there and I was like, because, I've swapped vets at this point. They have shipped semen, so many times. Wow. And I went out there and I said, look, Miss Cody, I said, honey, we've made 1,000,000 miles together. You are the only thing that I've had in my life that's constant. The only thing. Like, me and you have spent more time together consecutive years than I've had a parent, a friend, anybody. Like, it's me and you, babe. Like, you're not done. And I said, after this baby, if you can, we'll go back to running. So call Dr. Pike. She comes in heat. Take her to Piedmont. He calls me. He's like, bring her on. Come on. We'll get everything done. He sets her up. She comes in heat. They ship the semen. He bred her on Father's Day. And he called me like 2 or 3 days later, and he said, she's good. She's good. Wow. Now, in the midst of all this, we figured out we're going to let her carry the baby. April 30th of the next year, 2019. So I'm like, you know what? She's bred. Let's start trying. Well, that's when we figured out I couldn't. So.
I remember that.
It was tough.
Yeah.
So I go see Dr. Carolee here in Dublin. He starts asking a bunch of questions. And I was like, yes, no. And he said, I want you to come back in a few days and we're going to do an emergency ultrasound. And I was like, why you got to say emergency? You know, why can't you just say ultrasound, you know? And they said, no, you know, call Dustin. He said, we're going to do it. And I was like, okay. So we get in there and we're doing the ultrasound. And like I look, I'm like, Dustin, Dr. Carely, you know, it's like in front of me. And I see their eyes get big. And I'm looking up like, what y'all looking at back there? You know, like, because the screen's over the top of your head. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And he said, you know, we're going to have a talk. So sit down, we talk. And he said, there's no really safe way for you. And this is probably the reason why you've not been able to carry at any point in your life. And I say carry like it's, you know, an animal. But that's always been my saving grace, like where I go to. So he said, we got to take everything. And I was like, we just can't cut some of this out. And he said, no, if we cut it out, then it's going to be like plaster. Everything's just, it's not going to be safe for you or a baby. And I was like, okay. He said, we're going to schedule it for Monday. Well, in true ride or die fashion, over the weekend, Darcy's gallbladder goes out.
Really?
So there me and Darcy are in the OR together.
I remember that. Now that you say that, who would have thought?
Friends to the end.
I know.
That's it.
Yeah, so there we are in the OR, and they're like, do y'all want to be in the same room together? Y'all want us to move this little curtain? I was like, we might as well move the curtain because we're gonna holler through it anyway.
right.
Slide the beds over.
Yep. So that's on a Monday. The night before, her gallbladder goes out. Now, because of kind of jumping around, because we were talking about Miss Cody. The night before I walk out there to the barn, you know, I'm looking at all my kids, my four-legged animals, and I was like, Miss Cody, you look like you're getting close. And I looked down, and I was like, she's waxed over. She's dripping. Like, you about to go into labor, sister. I was like, all right. So I called Dr. Pike, and I said, Dr. Pike, I got to have a hysterectomy in the morning, and I don't know if Miss Cody's going. I don't want to leave her here by herself and her, you know, something go wrong. He said, bring her up here. So I'll haul her up there to Madison, get there at like 11 o'clock that night. He puts the Foley monitor in her, the Foley, and he said, she probably won't. He said, by the time I get home, this thing's probably going to go off. She folded the morning I had to have my hysterectomy.
Really? Jeez, if that isn't a God thing.
Yep.
You have seen it.
Yep. And prior to when I hauled her up there, I met Pastor Tom at the sidetrack in Wrightsville, and Pastor Tom got on the trailer and prayed over Miss Cody the year prior.
God, what an incredible story.
Yeah. So I named her baby Mr. Cody, and that's yeah. So you know, it's sometimes we don't get what we pray for. It just comes in another form.
Comes in a different way than we were imagining it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was it was whenever you leave the hospital, and anybody that's ever had, you know, a lot of ladies say, oh man, you had a hysterectomy, I'd love to have one, or I had one, it's the greatest thing I ever had. But those are usually people who have had the option or have children. You know, it's one thing to have the option, but then when you have it completely taken away from you, that's something totally different. Because at the age of 40, do you have kids?
I do. I have a 12-year-old son.
Derek, you've got kids?
2.
Brian?
Tres delincuentes.
How many?
I don't
Three.
even think that's 3 kids in Spanish.
But you know,
3 crazies, I think.
but when y'all sit around and you talk with your guys, y'all can talk about your kids. Mm-hmm. When I'm with women, because so many of my friends are females, a lot of their identity is being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
I don't have that. And I'm not, you know, it's 1 in 8. There's 1 in 8. Every woman that you look at, there's 1 in 8 that is battling infertility. Mm-hmm. But, you know, for the longest I was mad because I was like, you know, the one thing you were designed to do, like you're a woman, Stephanie, like the one thing God put women here to do, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. But it was not part of my journey that God put me here on earth for. You know?
And that's something that you realize. I know that's not something that just all of a sudden happened. That's something that I'm sure was a process of coming to that realization and acceptance that was.
My best friend, my ride or die, Darcy.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You know, she's infertile.
Yeah.
So he placed her right next to him, and
For y'all
vice
to walk
versa.
through that together.
Yeah. Yep. So, you know, the days that, you know, the little kids call and say the Pledge of Allegiance, or they call and they're playing the mind bender,
Yep.
or you get a card, you know, their graduation card, and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid's already graduating. I remember
Yeah.
when his mom and daddy was calling in his birthday 10 years ago.
Yep.
You know, those are like our kids. So, you know, the morning ride, that's why I've been so protective of it
Yeah.
all these years, because family friendly radio, and in the 8 and 9 o'clock hour, we'll get a little, you
Yeah.
know, PG-13
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
It's a little rated R. But, you know, when you're trying to appeal to so many demographics, but stay true to yourself, but also have a family friendly show,
Yep. It's a
can-
balancing act.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. So, you know, when we say family in the morning, friends and family, it's really what Y Nation is.
Yeah. It's what it's centered around, and it's the same thing for me on Saturday nights. I love to hear from all the callers, but there's something special when I'm playing classic country music and you have a 7-year-old requesting something by Hank Williams Jr. and you're thinking, you know, and I always tell them, your folks raised you right. Your
Yes.
folks are raising you right, because it's something uplifting about that. Again, because I grew up in classic country and what is now called classic country, and just to have kids, you know, listen to that and call in and make requests it puts a smile on my face on a Saturday night when, you know, I could be spending time with Sydney or, you know, whatever it may be, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is why I'm here.
Yeah, because I mean, this is radio. I mean, everybody here is your own best DJ. Anybody that's watching this podcast, you're
Yep.
your own best DJ.
That's right.
But, you know, if there's not radio stations that are doing what we're doing, terrestrial radio will die.
Yeah, it's the interaction. That's what it's the interaction with the listeners that you thrive off of that, because if I can put a small smile on somebody's face that's lost a loved one, that's going through something, that maybe it's a sad song, whatever it is, if I can put a small smile on their face, then I can walk out of there every Saturday night when I leave and say, this was good. This was good.
Wow. Today's episode is brought to you in part. You said add one.
Yeah, no, add
Hit,
one. Just
hit
click
add
on
one. Add one. Whoa, dude, there it is. Okay, man. Today's episode is brought to you by Buckeye Preferred Services. They do tree work and tree removal. You can reach them at 478-484-2178 or 478-290-4138. I think we say chainsaws will travel. And if you have any problems in your yard in the form of trees, they're cutting out your problems. Can you cut that? You can edit this, right, dude?
No, yeah. No, like, you talking about when you were asking.
Because I look like I don't know
questions?
what I'm doing. Thank
No,
you,
yeah,
Buckeye
sure.
Preferred
Yeah, no,
Services.
Yeah, I'll.
All righty.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and talking about that's the driving factor for me when that alarm clock goes off in the mornings. Because there's been, you know, probably the past 3 years, I mean, everybody goes through something. I mean, there's people going, you know, through far worse things whenever you watch this podcast, you know, because if we saw our problems, we'd probably be like, no, I'll just take mine back.
yeah.
But, you know, where I'm at in my journey, the past 3 years have been a little difficult because of, you know, just various things that have happened off radio and me learning to be my true, authentic self. I had the term fake put out on social media. She's fake. And, you know, when you hear that word fake, I think phony, a lie, not true to yourself, putting on a facade, you know. And then I started doing soul searching because I'm an overthinker.
I am too.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if somebody puts something out there about you or you read something about yourself, I'm going to run it through, oh my gosh, over and over in my head. Like, why did they feel that way? What did I do? You know, is it my past or, you know, something, you know, all these things. But then I was like, Stephanie, you're fake. And I started soul searching. I was like, you know, for this person to give me this, what made them think that? Like, what were some of your actions? Well, number one, I was posting the highlight reel of my life.
Okay.
Social media.
Okay.
You know, these are small segments of my life that I choose to put out there. And it was building a narrative. And the narrative was I wanted everybody to like me. You know, on social media, I look like this big social person. You see me in Kroger, I'm probably staring at the floor. You see me at one of the events I put on, I'm keeping myself busy. I don't make eye contact. Walking through a crowd, social anxiety, debilitating. I can't tell you how many times I have broke down, probably on aisle 3 at Kroger till they rearranged it, and I can't find anything now, and got right back in the car. Cried, like full-on panic attack, going in there by myself. But I make myself go now, even if it's just to get a potato.
Growth.
Yeah, like, you know what? Like, you go. But back to the fake thing, I was like, you know, what am I doing that's making people think that? Well, yeah, I was putting on a facade. Do I cuss? Yes. I do cuss.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, you know? Like, I cuss, but
Chris doesn't.
here it comes.
Continue.
Carry on,
Yeah.
Stephanie. Carry
Yeah.
on. Sorry.
So I was putting on this facade because, yeah, it's Y96. It's the radio. You know, some people are like, I don't listen to it. Well, guess what? Sometimes I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You know?
Good for you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I
You
get
got me.
it. I got it. I mean, we're not for everybody. We might be for some people. But when you are on a public platform, I made myself feel like I had to do certain things, say certain things, post certain things, have the perfect marriage, you know, all of these things so people would approve.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Pastor Tom looked at me one day, he said, Stephanie, you only need to perform for the audience of one. Ooh. And then I was like, well,
Pastor T.
I'm telling you, that might be the guy right there.
Wow.
and I said, well, to myself, I was like, that's the problem. I don't know who I am. Am I this person that I put out there on social media? Or am I the person that I am on radio? Am I the person I am when I'm by myself? Like, Stephanie, who are you? And then I was in this ping pong match, and I still stay in this ping pong match. Because, you know, if am I radio Stephanie? Or am I Stephanie when I get to, you know, my little place out there in Rockledge? When you shut that gate. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm just going to have to be honest. The person that I have portrayed myself to be, I'm not her. I'm not her. I don't have it all together.
Yeah.
I absolutely at all. I mean, Tuesday night, major panic attack. You know, I don't know. Maybe y'all have. I mean, do you ever just feel like the devil's just like right there beside you,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
and you can't control your emotions?
100%.
The tears start flowing, and you just want. I just wanted to run, and I did. I got in my car, and then, you know, that's when it's, you know, it's like I just felt like he was, you know, right. The devil was right there beside me, and he was like, "Oh, you want to do 90? That's nothing, Stephanie. Do 100."
Yeah.
Now, this happened Tuesday. Probably about 11:30. Got on I-16. And then, you know, then it was like, you could just go hit that tree. And, you know, those thoughts come in my mind. But then I was like, you know what? That's the devil.
Yeah.
Like, tell him to sit down, shut up.
Yep.
Go to hell.
Yep.
Got to exit 71. Passed it, went to the next exit. And I pulled over, and it was like, you got the wrong person in the seat with you. Like, you tell people when they get in a dark place, call on Jesus. I couldn't say the name. Like, I felt like, you know, somebody had just grabbed me by the
Choking
throat.
you.
Just choking me.
Yeah. Can
And,
relate. Can relate.
Yeah, and I text Darcy, I said, I'm not coming to work tomorrow. Because the devil will get in your mind and make you think that you are not worthy, you are not enough, you're fake, you know, you're a liar, you've put on this fake facade, you know, you're by yourself for a reason.
Yeah. It just keeps beating you down.
Yeah. And I just was like, no, I'm by myself because I need to learn to rely on God. Like, I need to learn to rely on, you know, the person that puts the breath in my lungs. And then Wednesday morning, I didn't set my alarm clock because I was like, you know what, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm just not going. Darcy's got it. And I woke up at 5 o'clock. It was like a new day.
Wow.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
And then, and I share that to, not for pity or sympathy or anything like that.
It's real.
It's real.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media has put us to the point where we feel like we have to be this certain person.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep. You're right.
And then you scroll it, and then you start to compare. And then I'd felt like I had to, post this to make it look like everything was fine or I'm good, But really I wasn't. I was falling apart inside. Social media was a scapegoat for me not to focus on something that I had not addressed, and that was I couldn't have kids. And, people look at you sometime and you're like, oh, you're child-free by choice, huh? Or, when that first, you meet someone, well, how many kids you got?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any. It just wasn't in the plans for me.
Yeah.
But I would never stop. I never really stopped to heal from it or think about it or process it. And that was, one of the things that, it's hard to say this term ex-husband because I felt like, I still felt like I failed because, well, why couldn't y'all make it work? But with him being such a good person and me being where I'm at right now, I didn't want to hurt an innocent bystander.
Yeah.
Would he stick and stay? Absolutely. That's the kind of guy he is. That's the kind of man he is. But I knew that I had to be this section I've had to deal with by myself. And you can imagine small town USA rumors, things like that.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen here.
Oh,
I
man.
know.
And, it's been so funny because anytime we've heard something, we send it to each other. Like, well, let me tell you what you're doing this week. Or, let me tell you what you're doing this week. And, my thing was, I was getting accused of girls. And, yeah. So, when all of this stuff was created to kind of create more division between he and I,
Right.
It brought
Brought
y'all
you together closer.
we're actually communicating more.
That's awesome.
And, and we've talked about it before. It's when the time is right. We'd love to be able to sit down and share it because pain has purpose.
Yeah.
Mess equals message. Test equals testimony.
Yeah.
But if we don't share the things that we have gone through, then how do we help another person?
You are right.
If you
Spot
hold,
on.
if you hold that pain in, or if you hold, that failure in, or how you overcome it, then it has no reason, and it doesn't. I don't want people to think that I say divorce means that it's something that that is condoned as far as what you read in the Bible, because it's not. But if we can share what we learned in ours to help prevent it happening to someone else,
Right.
that's my goal. And with that being said, I tell people all the time, pray together.
Yeah.
Number one, pray together. I mean, like, how many people listening to this podcast have ever grabbed their significant other's hand and pray together every night?
Yeah.
Do you pray together before you leave the house? Do you grab your family up and pray together? And it may not be, your family might not function that way, but pray together, communicate.
Yeah. That's huge.
Especially if you are married to a overthinker.
Yeah.
You got to have an over communicator.
Yeah. Kind of balance it out
Yes.
there. Yeah.
But pray together, communicate together, and the third one is date each other. Continue. Whatever that intensity is that you begin with,
Keep it.
Stay consistent with it. Darcy hates the song by Scotty McQuarrie, as she calls him. It matters to her.
It's it.
It is.
Yeah.
And, guys, as she's mentioned it, it matters to her. It matters to her. The petty stuff, I mean, Dustin and I, we weren't petty like that. We didn't argue. We had a lot of, our marriage was a lot of business transactions, and people thought, well, my God, y'all have it so together. Socially, we did, and that's on me.
Yeah.
Because I was struggling with my true, authentic self, and I put our marriage up here on a platform, and it was easy to do because, I mean, he's got a servant's heart. And so I had to tear all that down, and that's, this process, and people are like, well, I didn't know y'all were divorced. Well, we separated February 23rd of last year. And they were like, well, y'all were separated? Well, I mean, we didn't post about it.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it. We didn't publicly go through it because he and I both felt like, when we come through those gates at the farm, that was us.
Yeah.
And he would always tell me, Steph, you need to turn off. I couldn't. I mean, this thing is like an appendage, it's constantly going off. And I felt like if anybody commented on something, I needed to address it, acknowledge it, because how many do you like to be ignored? Looked over?
I hate it.
I mean, if you reach out to someone and they don't reply.
Oh, no. It's definitely not a good feeling. Definitely not a good feeling.
And, if you took the time to send, 2 sentences on a post and, you felt like, man, they didn't even like it. They didn't even comment on it. And then, as an overthinker, I have felt those things. And then, we go through, you can like and love all of their stuff, but you can't like and love mine. We start looking at it through that filter or that lens. And then you're sitting on the couch. I'm on my phone. He's watching me on my phone. And we're just slowly drifting apart. So how many people listening to this podcast happens at your house?
Yeah.
You get home.
I'm sure more than would like to say it doesn't,
Yeah.
More than
Right.
would like to admit it, that's for sure.
Or, she puts her phone down and, whoa, I better put my phone down now. Or, because I would be that one. I'd put my phone down and look at him and be like, oh, you're still on your phone? And then, what I didn't realize was the neglect he was starting to feel.
This is good stuff, Stephanie. I'm sorry. I'm glad that you're sharing this. I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to point that out because I think that's good for that's good for anybody.
Put the damn phone down.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it down.
Yeah.
And I'm preaching to myself at this point
I get it.
because if you've ever been in the midst of someone and they're on their phone and you're just literally waiting for them to look at you or acknowledge you or show you some attention, like instead of holding this phone, hold their hand. It can wait. It can wait. And that going back to it matters to her, it also matters to him.
Yeah.
It matters to him.
It's a two-way street.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So, when you leave a job, if it's mentally taxing, physically taxing in this heat, it's going to make us all like hellions for a few days. We're going to be testy.
Yeah.
But when you get in that back door and you're just so excited to have the air conditioner on and you just want to relax, and what do we usually do?
Sit down and get on that phone.
Entertain me, phone.
Yeah.
But we're not sitting down having dinners together. We're not sitting down having conversations together. If I saw this recently, and I wish I had saw it sooner, but this husband and wife, when they would come in, you're always told that a relationship's 50-50. It's got to be 100-100.
Yeah.
So, say you come in the back door, you've been working in the heat all day, you probably got 10% to give. You just write your number on there. I got 10 today. Well, she knows she's got to give 90. Communicate. She doesn't know that you're tired.
Right.
You're wore out. She doesn't know that, you've had your balls busted all day. And, you've got deadlines to meet. It was, the air conditioner went out in the truck on the way home and, you've got $42 and you've still got 4 more work days and you got to figure out how you're going to get diesel, feed the kids. And, as a man, you have all this stuff running through your mind because you're a provider. And, she's got 387 tabs open still from work, but she's got 432 tabs open for home. But if you know where you're at that day, you take the guesswork out.
Yeah.
Communicate.
Yeah.
Don't expect him to read your mind. Don't expect her to read yours.
Yeah.
You can't navigate if you don't know what's in the way of where you're going.
Right. Yeah.
That
So
was good. I like that.
Thank you, man. I'm good for one every episode, Stephanie.
They cashed it in already, don't they?
Went ahead and withdrew that one for the day.
yeah, but that's it's 3 things: pray together, communicate together, date each other, and just the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. And if you start with that intensity, stay consistent because every person, all 4 of us sitting here, have some kind of trauma that we've gone through.
Yeah.
And some people choose to overwork themselves. Some people choose to over-medicate themselves. But it's because we have not communicated it out and figured out a way to deal with it healthy. And it's so important because, the PTSD side of my brain, I like to put stuff in a box, slam it shut, and stick it back. But then when a trigger happens like Tuesday, it's like the devil's like, hey, we're going to pull all them boxes open. Let's have a party. All the boxes, lids off. Here we go, sister.
Whether you like it or don't.
Yeah. And then the run factor in me, because that's what I've always done is run from things, is get in the car and leave. Just leave. So, yep, barrel racing has been where I have where I've run to.
Yeah.
And after Miss Cody, in her glory days, the level of the playing field for me, I was at ground zero. I had another horse that I hauled for many years, Juicy. I could go on her, and you just have fun. Just kick, point, run, have fun. You don't have to think during the run. You pick up your leg. You could hug the top of the barrels. They run the exact same because they were both trained by Papa Herb. And I went to the rodeo in Sandersville. Prior to the week of the rodeo, the sweet mom and little girl listened to the morning ride. She said, hey, my little girl wants to meet you at the rodeo. Are you coming? I was like, yeah, I'd love to meet her. Well, get to the rodeo. I get Juicy saddled. She would take a pre-race mix, which was, B12. She had taken it for years because she, it wasn't anything illegal. It was B complex. And because she needed a little help. She's a little lazy, get her like drinking your Monster, your B12, she was deficient in it, always had been. So walked to the other side of the arena to meet this little girl, and was over there taking pictures. She'd given me this little bag and this necklace and wrote me this sweet little note, and walked back to the other side of the arena, and everybody's eyes was real big, and they were like, And I was like, what? And they're like, Well, I get there, and Juicy, they had snatched the saddle off of her. She was on the ground, unresponsive. Dr. Ace in Sandersville was there. He gave her, some medicine. He looked at me and he was like, Steph, she'll bounce out of it. The only thing that we could think is like when the B12, maybe it got outside of the vein, really don't know. There was everybody was around her, praying over her, and you can feel a horse's heartbeat, right where their girth area goes. And so, I could feel it, and this girl walks up to me. Now, the only horse I had at the time was Juicy, because I've retired Cody at this point. She's, had child, and, she's
good.
She's good. She's enjoying being a mama. So, I'm holding her heart, and this girl walks up to me, and she said, do you mind if I pray? I was like, please, because I don't have words right now, I'm holding her, I can feel her heartbeat getting fainter. And she, she leans over on her and, starts praying. And I felt her pray her over what I like to call Rainbow Bridge. And, we took her there on a horse trailer. She left there on a trailer with a tarp. And so at the rodeo, I was like, trying to process it. I was like, all right, this was already pre-planned. This is part of the journey. That's why God had me over here. This is why she, went here. And I had bought this horse probably about 4 or 5 months before this. And when I go down there to try her, because, God got a sense of humor, I said, well, what's her name? Georgia. I'm a Gator fan. I can't this horse, Georgia.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're dog fans.
I love it.
In case
Yes.
you didn't know.
Yeah, so, I'm like, okay, well, sure. I get her, run her one time, and I was like, yeah, I like her. I was like, yeah, I'll buy her. Well, I get her home, and for what I paid for her, because I'm a little bird, cheap, I was thinking, man, she's going to go, I'm going to go and win. I paid this much money for her, okay. No, it did not work that way. She'd get to the first barrel and give me the middle finger. Because I'm so used to riding these horses that you just go in there, sit, run around the barrel, wave, lift your leg up, laugh the whole time. And Georgia, different animal. Well, I had been taking her to shows, and she made me look like I didn't know what I was doing, you know. And for all those years, whatever I backed off the trailer, I felt like, you know, I'm being top 5. I may win it. We're gonna be right there. I'm a contender. I'm not just a contestant,
Right.
you know. So, so February of that year, this old man looked at me and he said, "If you would leave that good horse talking about Juicy at home and ride that one more, you'd do her justice." Made me mad.
What do you know, old man?
Yeah. So I started leaving Juicy at home. But when I started to leave her at home, it allowed that distance to be created. So when that happened, I could deal with her death better.
Right.
The girl that prayed over Juicy, she's from South Carolina. Y'all know what her name was? Georgia.
I knew that's what you were fixing to say.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So
The
I-
dots that you just connect with your life and the way that his hand has just guided you through is just mind blowing.
yeah, the morning ride. Radio. We'll go from rodeo to radio. A previous manager had been calling me. You know, we need somebody in sales. We want to have you back. Well, I was working for a public services at the time, getting paid to talk trash, literally. Now I get paid to sell air. But he kept calling me. He said, imagine trying to sell air. So he called me back and he was like, "Hey, please come." And I was like, "No, I don't." You know, I was making really good money. Super blessed to work for a corporate waste management company. Never figured like I could ever make that amount. And but I was tired of corporate. I was tired of, you know, having to hold profit margins for, you know, Wall Street because they're a publicly traded company. And I just finally said, "You know what? I'm gonna take a leap of faith." You know, Dustin looked at me. He said, "Look, you're miserable down there." He was like, "You know, peace of mind's worth a lot of money." And I was like, "Well, you know, it's going to be a big lifestyle change for us." But he said, "Yeah, it'll be fine. You know, if you think you'll be happy, do it." Well, that I didn't even apply for that job. But they needed somebody to do the morning show. And then, of course, you know, when I took the morning show, 3 weeks later, the guy that helped talk me into radio got fired. And then it was the diva den. And then there was another guy, and another guy, and another guy, and another guy.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was me. But because I have had to be in a masculine role so much of my life since I was 19, that's the reason why I have a lot of times the reason why I have a hard time working with a male. Because I have a lot of masculine energy, but it's because I have been the provider and protector and survivor for so long. Because after, you know, the older married man, I said I'd never want to be dependent upon anyone else again. And that's, you know, it's nothing, you know, it's not throwing shade or dirt or whatever. I'm super thankful because that older married man was an angel. 2 weeks prior to my mama dying, my mama brought him and said, "You know, look, if something ever happens to me, you promise me you'll take care of her." And he's led up to that promise. Anytime I've ever called, whatever it is, you know, co-sign, you know, whatever, when I was trying to build my credit, you know, "Yeah, I'll help you. I know you'll take care of it, Steph." Wow. And so, you know, he played a role. It's totally against what we are taught, and I do not condone it or anything like that, but I didn't know what else to do at 19.
Yeah.
But everything has led up to this point, and I share that because, you know, whatever you're going through, God sees the storm from the other side, and he knows the end from the beginning.
Yeah.
And don't try to push things. Like, let it fall into place. And it's done that. And because, I mean, I've wanted to leave. I can't tell you how many times. I don't like getting up in the mornings. I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, me neither. Oh my gosh, me neither.
At all. But that's, you know, there's a purpose.
Yeah.
The night before, whenever, you know, the Bible verses, I can't tell you how many times when, you know, I've, you know, sent the Bible verse and Pastor Tom talks about it the next morning. You know, our music consultant writes the devotion that I share at 8:50. They almost always line up.
Wow.
So, you know, there's, and, you know, people can debate religion and things like that. And I tell people all the time, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And the conspiracy theorist and probably a little crazy.
That's right.
That's Brian, I think.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's, I'm learning to be able to open up about this kind of stuff to hopefully empower other people to be who you are. we're not supposed to be like everybody else. We're not supposed to look like everybody else.
Yeah.
And make yourself happy. You have to be happy with the person that you see in the mirror. And when your life lines up, whether it be socially, digitally, reality, life gets a whole lot easier. When you get everything, you put God first and then you just put everything else in alignment, life gets easier instead of fighting the path that He's put you on. And that's what I'm learning to do. Learn and you know, and not worry about what people say.
Yeah.
People pleaser comes from my childhood. Wanted my mama to love me. I wanted, you know, the people that were caring for me to love me. I wanted my daddy in my life. I wondered, you know, why I didn't, you know, have family reunions or why I didn't go on family vacations, you know, all of these things. And it all come back to me. And, you know, finally, as I got older, I looked at myself one day and I said, it wasn't your fault, babe. You were a kid.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, you know, you were a kid. You didn't ask for these things to happen to you.
Yeah.
But there were people, your parents or, you know, your godparents, your foster parents, in their 20s and 30s, probably healing from childhood trauma themselves.
Right.
So you can't be so hard on your parents either.
Yeah.
Because maybe they only knew how to love you the way that they knew how to love you. And they were probably doing the best that they thought. They thought they were doing the best that they could for you. And that's where forgiveness comes in.
Yeah. Very good. I'm glad that you said that right there too, because it gets you thinking. It makes you think. Because we all face our own struggles and battles every day that we get up, whatever that may be. And then, you know, we second guess decisions that we make or things that we do. And then I guess to your point, we need to follow the path that's put there. We don't have all the answers. We don't know what's coming tomorrow. If tomorrow's coming, you don't know those things. You just have to trust, have faith, and walk through it, whatever it is that comes your way.
And, you know, whenever you start to publicly speak about Christ or your beliefs or anything like that, you do put a target on yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Because do I drink? Yes. Do I drink until gluttony? I have. Have I self-medicated? Absolutely. But I'm a sinner. I'm not going to always be that person I am on radio. Are y'all the same person all day? Listening to this podcast, are you the same person you are when you wake up?
No, can't be.
So I strive to be her,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of times I look at myself in the mirror and I don't recognize her.
Yeah.
Like, because when you are by yourself and you live alone, anybody that lives alone, you know, like you feel like them walls are like, that living room gets real small sometimes. And it's forced me to really, really, really dig down deep. And sometimes that's when that flight factor comes in.
Yeah.
But if you don't address it, it's going to keep coming back up and up and up. And you're going to find other ways to put it back down or dress it all up and post it. So don't be so hard on other people because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they went through with their childhood. You don't know what they have gone through in their adult life. I mean, people have lost children. People have overcome cancer. People have lost loved ones to cancer. People are struggling to make ends meet right now. You know, there's all these silent battles that people are fighting. Our veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, go to our McDonald's here in Dublin at lunch and look at the amount of people that sit there by themselves eating. What have they seen?
Yeah.
Why are they going to the VA? What kind of pain are they trying to heal? You just don't know what other people are going through. So we're so busy, and I mean, heck, we've probably been here an hour or so talking about my story. And it's easy for us sometimes to talk about ourselves. Sometimes it is for me, sometimes it isn't. I know that I have narcissistic tendencies, but I have to work hard to overcome them. I know that I have bipolar tendencies, but I don't want to medicate them. but it's so easy to talk about our stories sometimes. We just need to stop and take time to listen to other people's stories. You know, if on a job site, in school, wherever, if you feel that tug on your heart that like somebody's going through something, maybe that guy is not performing, or maybe he's not living up to the expectations that you have for him on that job site. Instead of like calling him stupid or like, you know, you can do better. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You know, like you broke this machine. Pull him to the side. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, like what's going on at home? You know, and sometimes they may throw up a like, you don't care. Maybe because they've never had anybody ask.
Right.
And they don't know that you're being sincere.
Yeah.
Just stop and take time to ask somebody like, what's, you know, you want to talk? You're probably not going to talk at that point. And then sometimes you may be there for a couple of hours. But sit with them and listen, because sometimes that's all somebody needs is just somebody to listen.
Yep.
Yeah. I like to call that seek to understand. That's don't pass judgment. Try to figure it out. Try to help them get that out, whatever it is they may be dealing with, because there's a laundry list of things it could be.
But, you know, imagine if we had like this little neon on our forehead. You know, like today it says abused. Today says, you know, in my mind, fight last night, pick myself apart in the mirror, I don't like my wrinkles. You know, you would know what that person was feeling that day, so you would know how to communicate with them.
Yeah.
But so many times we just hold things inside, and then it's just like when the opportunity arises, it's like, oh, you ready to go for the jugular? Square up.
Yeah. And explode everything on them. For sure.
And then sometimes when she explodes, just let her explode.
Yeah.
Sometimes she just wants to be held. Sometimes she just needs to cry. And then, you know, some guys may say, oh my God, she cries every day. Well, do you think she enjoys it? Do some of us cry for attention? We have. Do some of us cry because it is like, hey, I need help? And, you know, there's been times I've abused that cry. But then I had to man up or cowgirl up or whatever you say and said, Stephanie, that's no way to live. That's no way to make anybody else live. Like, stop this toxic behavior. Fix you. And that's what I'm working on.
That's good.
That's what I'm working on. So it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
It's been messy. But if I don't talk about it, am I using the platform God placed me on?
Yeah.
Because like I said, I did not apply for that job. I've tried to walk away from it. I've tried to leave that place. I have tried to move to Texas, Florida. I mean, wherever.
Yeah.
But it's like, he said, He just like, he pushes you back down.
Yeah.
Just like, nope, that's where you're going to be. I'll move you. I will move you when I'm ready to move you. But until then, you're going to stay right there and you're going to do it. But the mornings that, you know, I'm riding to work and I'm like, hey, you're welcome in the studio. Like, show up and show out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of mornings that me and Darcy have looked at each other like, wow. You know, when you just get those glory bumps all over you and you're like, you don't know why you shared something or you said something and then the text line lights up.
Yeah.
Or when you're out in public and this guy walks up to you and he's got his 4-year-old little boy and he looks at you and he said, you know, if y'all hadn't have talked about suicide that morning on the radio, I wouldn't be here holding his hand. But you don't have to be on the radio to make that impact.
That's right.
Right.
This thing right here can be good or bad. It's how you use it to share your story to help others.
Yep.
But if you keep it in, you're not, I feel like you're not doing what God, or, you know, whatever you would like to believe in has put you here to do.
Yeah.
Because nobody's a mistake. What you went through, some of mine's been self-inflicted. And I'm woman enough to say, yeah, I did it. But you share it to hopefully help somebody else not make those same mistakes.
Right. I agree.
So maybe some of you listening today are holding on to something that you've not shared before. Share it.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, something we've kind of said before, you know, on this podcast about, you know, just being kind to somebody. Nothing really gets solved from a position of anger and just being mean. You know, and also just having that courage. You know, we talked about, we brought up the suicide thing a couple times this episode. You know, having that feeling that comes along with that, that feeling of alone and nobody cares and I'm in this by myself, that's one of the driving factors behind that.
Or that the world will be a better place without you in it.
Right. That you're not worth it,
But
and
all you
that's
do-
why you're alone, and that's not true.
And then whenever you do it, all you do is pass the pain to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's not.
Magnify it.
Yeah, that's not God love. That's not Jesus love. That's not unconditional love. That's not the plan.
No, it's definitely, you're never alone. Even if it's just reaching out to one of the hotlines, anything like that, there's definitely resources out there, and then just kind of like, discovering yourself and working on yourself. You just try to be better, because obviously, Derek and Brian have definitely messed up a lot. I've messed up once or twice, but I try to not do it again. I try to just be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. And if I can keep moving along that line, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay.
Yep. And the people pleasing thing, I'm still working on, and I'll probably to a certain extent always be a people pleaser, and I'll probably always have that social anxiety. Kind of talked about it whenever you reached out, and I was like, I'm honored because y'all are making me overcome a fear. And sitting in this
Multi-million-dollar studio.
yes, with Marilyn Monroe, I was scared, but I was like, if I don't go, I'm never going to overcome it. Because the podcast thing, the word podcast has had such a negative emotion, because it's kind of been used as, like, I've always felt like it was ammunition against me, and I was just like, Stephanie, you're just made for radio. Like, that's where God placed you. It's terrestrial radio. Like, yeah, I mean, I know it's 2023 and podcast are, the new thing, but, I was like, just be happy where he put you. So whenever y'all asked me to come on, I was like, so what, is that what we're doing now, Jesus? Like, this is what you got. And so, but I was like, if I don't go, I won't know.
Right.
So I appreciate y'all asking
We
me.
appreciate you.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much.
I know y'all wanted to talk about running around trash cans, but it's his fault.
I do have a question about horses, though, that you can help me out with. Is it true that you can lead a horse to water?
Oh my
but
God!
you
And
can't make it
ladies and
drink?
gentlemen, thank you,
No.
thank you once
not true. I
again.
knew
Thank you
you-
once again.
I'll never
Hey,
do that.
Stephanie, before we, I think Chris closes up, you want to share the whole disclaimer about this, nothing
Yes.
said on this podcast.
Yes, nothing said here represents the views or opinions of my employer, State Broadcasting Incorporated, Dowdy Broadcasting.
Thank you. I
God,
knew-
you've
I
done
knew-
that
I
before.
knew
Maybe
you
once or
would
twice. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, yep. Same goes for Derek.
Exactly.
Y'all, his government name.
Well, listen, everybody. Thank you so much again for tuning in, for listening in, for watching on YouTube. I'm a big numbers guy. We watch a lot of the YouTube analytics. And YouTube is telling us that about 50%, I think, of the people that watch this podcast are not currently subscribed. So we're going to ask again, if you wouldn't mind, if you'll just reach down at the bottom right of where this video is. You're watching it currently.
How much does that cost?
Yeah, is that going
To subscribe,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's $3 and free cents.
free and free?
That's it. That's it. It's $0, 0 cent
Free
thing.
fitty.
You just click on the little subscribe button, and you'll get notifications every time we post a new episode.
Nice.
And you can do that on all of our socials. It'll be at the logo at the end of this video. Follow us on everything. No money to you, and you'll stay up to date with everything that we got going on.
Do you want to share the good news about the ratings?
I think I forgot this joke.
No, that's is
The number one podcast.
That's true. That's true.
Oh.
That's true. We are, as of, I think, pre-recording this one right
Yeah,
before.
before this
We are actually the number one. Don't want to say something like that?
just carry on.
Okay, we are actually the number one rated podcast coming out of this basement in Dublin, Georgia.
Which
you
is
know,
an absolute thrill.
which is
Yeah.
crazy
Wow.
because it was a competition for a while. Believe it or not, we weren't the first when we first started.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's
Stephanie,
crazy.
I want to say this before we close. Seriously, had no idea that it was going to be so courageous of you to come on and share your story. And I am so humbled and so appreciative of you coming out and for you being so transparent and the courage that it took for you to do that. I thought we were going to be sitting around here and hearing the Stephanie that I've seen on some social media, but to know how transparent you can be, it just draws me that much more to you. And I love the person that you are and being so vulnerable. So
Well,
huge deal.
well, I appreciate it because being able to be this person today is, I guess you would call it step one.
Cool.
Love it.
So, and I wouldn't have, Darcy has encouraged me. My girls in Swainsboro, they've encouraged me over tacos and margaritas. To Steph, be yourself.
Yeah.
Just be yourself. Like you don't have to be this person that you've created. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm learning to be, and I feel like as I become more and more transparent, as you say, I think I'll become a happier person, not the person that I have built. I'll actually be happy,
Yeah.
truly happy with me.
I love it.
Not happy
Yeah.
because I have a husband or
Right.
a significant other or a horse that's winning or anything like that, because where I'm at in my career of radio and rodeo barrel racing, I'm thankful for the years that I've been blessed with, because I have been blessed with being on the top. I've also been blessed with being on the bottom, because bottom is teaching me how to actually train, learn, spend time with my horses, and enjoy every run or morning ride that I get to make, because 40 and kind of halfway there, so the next ever how many years that I'm blessed with, I'm going to enjoy what I have been blessed with and not feel like it has to check boxes
Right.
for people's approval.
There you go.
Because I don't give a shit anymore.
I love
I
it.
just don't. I
love
don't.
it.
Maybe it's because you get older. People always say when you get older,
That's me. That's me right there. For sure.
that other really deep voice that used to be on the radio, he looked at me, he said, when you get in your 40s, you're just not going to care anymore. And I was like, well, I guess that's the reason why you walk and fart. You just don't care anymore.
I got two things I want to add though. We do want, in several weeks, we would like for you and Darcy to come on
Yes, please.
from the morning ride.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Also, too, something we didn't get into, but I would like for you to pitch out there real quick is the Sundown Cattle. Would you let everybody know?
Oh, yeah.
Would you give everybody a quick thing on that as
Yeah.
far as purchasing homegrown and
Yeah.
fed and
Yeah, especially, while those billionaires were researching the bottom of the ocean floor, and it was passed where people could grow lab-grown meat and sell it, and it could be labeled product of USA. It's so important not only to, I would love for you guys to buy Sundown Cattle Company beef, but if you know a local farmer that is raising local beef and it is being processed locally, you can buy direct. It doesn't have to be just from me. Buy from your local farmer, because your farmer know your food. You're helping buy fertilizer. You're helping keep that family farm running. The cattle that come from Sundown Cattle Company, they're fed in 3 different counties in this area. I do not personally drive the tractor out there. I don't have time. Do I love to when I can? Absolutely. I'm learning how to do man shit, but I enjoy it. And ladies, you can do it too. Just because, it says whatever brand on it and it's a piece of machinery outside of the Suburban car, whatever you drive, you can drive it.
Right.
It does not have to be a man's job. But the cattle are grown here locally. They're processed here in the state of Georgia. It's all certified Georgia grown, and there's nothing in it but just beef. There's no preservatives, no hormones, anything that has to be given antibiotics. It's pulled from the program, and it's sold at a local stockyard. But it's just beef, and it's a lot of times you say you don't need to eat red meat and things. You may not, but a lot of times it's the preservatives in the meat and the hormones that's in the meat. But yeah, Sundown Cattle Company, I do pick up and delivery. I pick it up at my house and I deliver it to you. But, I do appointments. I do half and wholes, meaning everything comes back to you vacuum sealed. And you can just open your freezer and have it whenever. But I appreciate y'all for supporting your local cowgirl.
And,
So-
and they can find that on Facebook.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, in the app, I've got it downloaded on my phone. It's still in the early stages. I'm working with this corporate. I guess it would be called a corporation, but it's a bunch of investors. They've asked me to come on. It's the Hero Cooperative, and it's building a beef cooperative here in the state of Georgia, because there's like a peanut cooperative, a cotton cooperative, but it's we're developing a beef co-op. And it's going to be, just direct to consumer.
Love
You
it.
don't have to go to the grocery store.
That's good.
So, and working on a delivery route here in Dublin. So, once the app is developed, we have orders by Friday. Everything is processed on Monday, vacuum sealed, and then we're looking to run that delivery route like on a Wednesday or Thursday. So it makes it a little bit more convenient because convenience is key. Because that's what a lot of times people say, well, we don't know how to get it because, you're only open this, and this. And, yeah, I've sold it out of the back of a horse trailer. I've sold it downtown. I've sold it at the farm. And the reason why I've bounced around so much is because if I went up in price, it's not economical. It's not affordable for people. So I've tried to keep, the price down but still be able to buy, horse feed and things like that.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why it's not, in downtown Dublin. Because I'd move it to the house where there was, no overhead.
Right.
And still be able to sell the product locally.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Thank y'all.
Well,
Appreciate
I don't
it.
know about y'all, but we've talked so much about beef, and she mentioned tacos earlier. I want some tacos de birria now.
Let's go talk about
it's
it.
time for some food and for some lunch. Stephanie, again, thank you so much for coming on. Y'all be sure to subscribe for the free to the YouTube. Now, we want to thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all next week. Enjoy your 4th.